Today's episode is brought to you by Makerist. Makerist is your new favorite online craft destination and Europe's largest online pattern marketplace. And now they're expanding into the global market to bring their huge selection of PDF, sewing, knitting, crochet, and embroidery patterns to crafters everywhere. Check them out at Makerist.com. Thank you so much, Makerist. And now, here's the show. Episode 182 of the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals where you can strengthen your creative business, stay up to date on industry news, and build connections within our supportive trade association. Check it out at craftindustrｙalliance.org. Today on the show, we're talking about building an audience as a sewing blogger with my guest, Alexis Bailey. Alexis is a DIY sewing blogger, sewist, and recently handsewist. She is passionate about sustainability, intentional making, and natural fibers. Alexis Bailey, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. It's so good to talk to you. And I am just super impressed with the platform and audience that you have built online in a pretty short period of time. And that's really what I want to talk to you about. Because I think often people kind of get intimidated when they kind of discover the online sewing community or the online craft community. They take a look around and then they think, it's impossible to just jump in now, and build a following because it just seems so crowded. And how can I make room for my own voice? But you've totally done it. And so that's what I'm excited to talk to you about. So let's jump back and see how you did this. So let's go back to the way beginning. Where did you grow up, and what were you kind of like as a kid? Were you kind of creative as a kid?
I grew up in a small town in Kansas called Gardner. It's a really small town, like everybody knows each other there. And I guess I would call myself creative back then. I didn't really have an outlet for it in the beginning. I kind of just did whatever, just arts and crafts and stuff in school. But then I started getting into sewing. I don't know why, but I used to put needle and thread through tennis balls and like embroider letters into them. It was super weird, but I used to do that and play around with, sewing in that way. And my aunt noticed, and my aunt at the time was a seamstress she was a men's tailor for men's suits. And so she decided she noticed that I wanted to sew. And so she taught me how to sew on a sewing machine. Pretty much.
Nice. And around how old were you? Were you like in middle school or a little younger?
Probably like 8 or 9, maybe. I mean, we moved here when I was like 13. So like 8 or 9-ish was about the age.
Yeah. All right. And so she taught you how to sew on a sewing machine. Did you have your own machine at that time, or were you using hers?
So a friend of ours actually at our religious group, she gave me this very old 1950s white brand sewing machine. I still have it, but it's like big and huge and bulky and heavy, and it's teal colored. I don't really think they're used that much anymore, but you can find them on eBay. But that was my first ever machine. It was super old, and it only did straight stitch, so I was not familiar with anything zigzag. But that was my first machine, and so she taught me how to sew on that. And my first ever project on it was a pair of pajamas.
Nice. Okay. And did you have like entrepreneurial tendencies then too? Were you making anything and trying to like sell it at school, or not really? Not really.
Yeah, me and a friend did do that. We tried to start a fashion company, and it was interesting. I mean, I wasn't really familiar with commercial patterns at the time, so I thought that it would be smart to take other kids' clothes and then try to copy them, although I didn't really know what I was doing. Yeah, we tried a little business, and I don't know how successful it actually was, but we tried, and it was trial and error at the age of 9 or 10.
Right. Okay. So you had some ideas though about like sewing
Yeah.
maybe as being some kind of a entrepreneurial something way back in the
Yeah.
beginning.
We wanted to do something in the fashion design world, and we thought that that would be our thing, but it wasn't.
And were you interested? I mean, you have such an amazing style now, and anyone who takes a look at your Instagram can just immediately see. I mean, I just think your style is so beautiful. And I just wondered,
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome. Were you interested in dressing and in style and like fashion magazines and things like that when you were younger? Or is that something that was more recent?
No, not at all. I was a super tomboy. Like growing up, it was just t-shirts, jeans, and hair in a ponytail all the time. And if my mom isn't that way at all, she's like the complete opposite, super girly, nails painted all the time, always wears a different outfit, wears heels to the mall, like the kind of person. So I kind of didn't want to be that person. So as a kid, I was just like super tomboyish. But as I grew up and got married, then I think I slowly, just naturally happened. I just naturally started, wanting to dress differently, especially in the sewing community. You start wanting to be more creative with your clothes. So, I just gradually and naturally started leaning towards, style and things like that.
Okay. And what did your parents do for work when you were younger? When you were growing
My
up?
my mom was actually, they both were in sales, actually. They're very entrepreneurial. My dad had multiple businesses of his own, and my mom was working at J.C. Penney. She's actually worked there for years, actually.
Okay. All right. Great. And then you said that you moved, and I know you now live in Dallas. So your family moved to Texas, it sounds like, when you were sort of a teenager.
Yeah, I was about 12. I was like 12 or 13, and we moved here. Yeah.
Okay. And then what did you what did you do after high school? What were you thinking you were going to do as an adult?
I never really had plans after high school. They try to like all during high school, they try to get you to go to the counselor so you can figure out your life and everything. And, I only had, plans to just do a volunteer ministry work. I never really had plans for schooling just because I knew we didn't have the money for college, and I wasn't really interested in any field specifically at the time that I wanted to stick with. And I wasn't the type of person that wanted to like go into college and then change my major. I wanted to know exactly what I wanted to do. So it just ended up, I just didn't really do anything after high school. I went into medical billing and coding, but I didn't really stick with that. And so I just kind of worked mostly. I was just working multiple jobs until I found the thing that I wanted to do, which I really didn't find until about 2 years ago.
And so how did you find it? Like, it sounds like sewing was that thing. And I'm wondering, is that right? Sewing was that thing?
Yeah, and that's why I totally am glad I didn't make the decision to go like straight into university or anything, because I think it probably would have been a waste of money for me, or I just would have been super unhappy because I just naturally found what I do now. And it was mostly because clothes just didn't fit at the store anymore. Like I was, getting older and in my like early 20s, and I got married and just stuff wasn't fitting, or I would realize how cheap quality things were at the store. Everything's polyester, everything shrinks in the wash. So I kind of just started making my own clothes after that. I remember we got a wedding gift card from one of our relatives, and Matt had me use it to buy a new sewing machine, a more updated sewing machine than the one I had. And so that kind of got the ball rolling, and I started making my own clothes after that. They weren't the greatest, but they were wearable.
So were you, prior to then, kind of buying some clothes from kind of like fast fashion retailers like H&M or Anthropologie or, places like that, and kind of liking the way they looked, but then being disappointed after a few washes that they didn't hold up the way that you wanted?
Yeah, it was a lot of H&M, like a lot of H&M. And H&M, I mean, I still think they're great for like basics, but I was getting like all my clothes from there and they weren't really the greatest quality. And so, yeah, I just kind of, realized it just wasn't working for me. I was wasting money and wasting time and resources. And so I would have just rather had a handmade wardrobe. And so I just started on that journey and everything.
Okay. And so when you first decided, okay, maybe I should try out sewing again, which was something that you had done a long time back. Most people who kind of get to, start sewing either again or for the first time, they turn to big four patterns because those are the ones they know about, like Simplicity or McCall's or Vogue pattern, something like that. And they often go to like a big box fabric retailer like Joanne or Hobby Lobby or something like that to buy fabric because those are the places that they know about. Is that the same for you? Is that where you went and where you shopped when you first started?
Yeah, I think it took me a while to get to the pattern side. I hadn't really been too familiar with commercial patterns. Like I remember when I first found out, like, and discovered deeply, like I think I had seen them, but when I first found out like what the drawers in Walmart and Joanne actually were, where the patterns were located.
Right, you just walk past them usually, like what's in there?
Exactly. Like I never really paid attention to them. And so when I finally started using them, I was like, oh, these were here this whole time. But for the most part, I was doing like self-drafted stuff. I was like, it was mostly skirts and like boxy tops kind of thing. Like you just make a slit in it and then you put it over and you make two seams and you have a shirt, or, you make a square, gather it and put some elastic in it and you have a skirt kind of thing. That's mostly how I started off. And then I was using like Mimi G tutorials to start off too. She had like a pencil skirt tutorial where you didn't need a pattern. And so that's when I started making pencil skirts. So she would just get some stretch fabric and add a waistband to it and you have a pencil skirt after you make one seam. So I was kind of more on that spectrum. I don't even remember when I started using commercial patterns. I don't remember my first one either, but I remember it was after I joined the sewing community that I did that, because for the most part I was just making stuff up. Mm-hmm. But then when I joined the sewing community, I saw that people were using all these big four patterns. And so then I started getting into Simplicity, and then my collection started growing from there.
Okay, got it. Yeah, Mimi G, I feel like has had such a huge impact on so many people because they find her tutorials, her video tutorials, and then realize that they can, figure out how to sew something that they can really wear. And sounds like that was really helpful to you getting started.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's great. And she's a huge force in sewing. So I think
she really was. I mean, I had no idea where to start or anything. And I found this really super old video of her. Like, it's like a dimly lit, you can tell it's like when she first started, but it was like a dimly lit video. But it didn't even matter. It was just, I got the point, and she made a pencil skirt and I made a pencil skirt, and we both had pencil skirts.
Right. And that's all you needed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's all I needed. And I just kept watching her videos from there, and it just went from there.
Okay. So this was probably back in like 2018-ish, somewhere like that, a couple of years ago.
It was like 2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even before then. And so you were just making these clothes to wear just for yourself, for your own pleasure, just so that you would have something that was more lasting, more your style, fit you better. And then what made you decide that maybe you should start posting pictures of yourself wearing them and kind of basically join the sewing community online as a presence versus just as somebody who is a consumer of these pictures? You know what I mean?
I don't know what made me decide. I think I just saw people doing it. I had like a personal Instagram account. And I just gotten, I started feeling like I was becoming more relevant. Like I got an actual sewing table. Before I was sewing on like this foldable table and picking up my stuff and putting it into the room out of the living room. But then we moved to a condo and we had more space. And so I got like an actual sewing table. And then I started like, thinking that I was the bee's knees and everything just because of that sewing table with all its space. So I think like, I was still making self-drafted stuff even at that time. And so I made this really, really pretty dress. It was like I guess the best way to compare it would be like an Ogden cami, like dress hack kind of thing with a gathered skirt. And so I made it from scratch without any pattern. And Matt was like, "Oh, you should post it." So I posted it on my personal account and it got like a lot of likes. And so then I just I was trying not to really be on Instagram that much anyway on my personal account. So I just turned my personal account into a new account, which at the time was, I named myself Pomegranates and Pieces because I liked pomegranates and I was making pieces. So I created that Instagram account and I just started just posting stuff just cause. And then as I was posting stuff and developed the understanding of hashtags, then I started finding different people. Like I started finding Mimi G and I started finding Erica Bunker and different people like that. And then I was like, oh, this is like a whole, I was just following like 5 or 6 people. Then I realized it was a whole community. And at the time it was kind of still growing. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I started wanting to post more and more of my stuff and everything and progress shots. And it just kind of went from there.
Right. I mean, there's nothing more motivating than like a little taste of success, right? Like once you put up something and if somebody likes it, it's like you want more. You know what I mean? I feel like, yeah, that like little bit of encouragement really makes you want to do more and more. That's really interesting. And so you named it Pomegranates and Pieces, and obviously your site is not named that, and your Instagram account is not named that. Your Instagram account and your site are both named after your name, Alexis Bailey. So what made you over time decide to change your account names to your actual name rather than have kind of a more abstracted name? Because I think sometimes people, they worry about using their real name, or they think maybe it would be better to use my real name. I mean, you have a name that's pretty easy to pronounce and pretty easy to remember, which is lucky.
Oh, thank you.
But sometimes, yeah. So anyway, I guess what was your thought process there?
Yeah, I mean, I remember it happened like right before I joined Indie Sew. I randomly decided I wanted to step up my photos because I was taking not really random. I was just joining the gaggle of people who were taking photos of their finished clothes, and I wanted them to be a little better. So I did one of those mentorship program things where you learn how to do better on your social media and advance it so you can. It was mostly to gain followers, and I had the intent of wanting to make money off of a blog or off of social media at the time. I don't really think I feel that way as much anymore, but at the time I wanted to advance it so that I could make money off of it. So I did one of those kind of rebranding mentorship programs. And one of the things that the mentor asked me was, why did you choose this name? And I was like, oh, because I like pomegranates and I make pieces. And they were like, well, it's kind of a long name and people don't, and it was true. People did not know how to spell pomegranates. Like, it was very difficult for some people. And so I noticed that a lot of people were just changing things just to their name. And my mentor was like, well, why don't you just change it to your name? And I never really thought of my name as like interesting or memorable or anything. And so I was like, oh, I guess that would be a good idea. So I just changed it. I didn't really know what to put in front of it. I didn't want to be cheeky with any, sewing puns. So I was just like, I'm the real Alexis Bailey. I feel like I'm real. So
and so that's what it was. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll talk about Indie Sew and the experience of being part of that community in a minute. But did you start a blog around that same time as well? And what role does the blog serve? Because I know a lot of people really feel like, oh, I have Instagram and I don't really like writing, so I don't really want a blog and I don't really see the need to have both. But for you, the blog seems to really serve a role kind of in conjunction with Instagram. And so I wondered if you could talk a little bit about why you like having both of those pieces.
I think when I started the blog was when I made a coat. I made my first coat, and it was a really nice coat, actually. But I made my first coat, and that's when I decided to start the blog. And actually, that was when I was still pomegranates and pieces. So I had started just a random WordPress blog, and then I noticed that people were being resources to the community. Earlier, you mentioned that, it is kind of saturated. So I didn't know what I could bring to the table. But as a beginner, I knew that I could bring my own beginner experiences to the table. And so that's kind of what made me just start putting stuff out there as far as pattern reviews. You don't really see too many people do like major pattern reviews, like in details that much. At least I don't personally anymore. But that was, I was in this phase where I was doing like, in-depth reviews about like Big Four commercial patterns and everything. And so I just started off there after that coat. And then I made my first t-shirt, and I thought it was so cool. And I made my first pair of jeans. It was kind of like a whole bunch of firsts I just started putting up on the blog just to share my experiences. And then I started just thinking, as I got more into pattern using and using Big Four patterns, then I started compiling different lists, like the top patterns you can use to make a t-shirt, the top patterns for a trench coat, things like that. And I just noticed it was getting a lot of following and a lot of interest. And so I just kind of kept doing that just to be a resource was the main goal of the blog. And that still is, just to be a resource.
Yeah. And it's helpful to people, right? I mean, a couple of those things that you said are helpful to people. It's helpful to people to see through the eyes of a beginner. You might think, oh, that's not helpful to somebody, but it is. A review of this pattern from the eyes of somebody who's just making it for the first time, who's a beginner, that's helpful. That perspective is helpful. Those lists are super helpful. And the nice thing too about a blog versus Instagram is it's really lasting. You have a place to send somebody that sort of stays in place and doesn't just scroll on past the way Instagram can.
Yeah.
I want to take a minute now to hear from our sponsor, Makerist.
Hi, I'm Holly. I'm the country manager for Makerist.com.
And tell me a little bit about Makerist.
So Makerist is one of the largest online marketplaces for digital patterns, specifically ones designed by independent creatives. And we're currently the largest DIY online marketplace in Europe.
Oh, wow. That's great. And so how do people get to sell their patterns on Makerist?
It's quite simple. We have a little Sell on Makerist button at the top right-hand side of our screen, and we walk you through the process. You have to provide us with a couple of your patterns just so we can do a little quality check, and then we get back in touch within 3 to 5 days usually, and then we help you set up your shop. So it's quite a smooth process.
And what kinds of patterns, like what kinds of crafts are offered?
We do all sorts of crafts, honestly. We have quite a lot of sewing patterns. That's one of our main areas, but we also have hundreds of patterns for knitting of all kinds, from beginner level blankets all the way up to very complex cable knitting, crochet, embroidery patterns also, and we also have a few plotting designers on our site.
Nice. Okay, great. And are all of the patterns in English? Are they in different languages?
Yes, so Makers.com that I manage is all in English, but we're also an international platform. So we have a German language version of our site, makers.de, and then also a French version, which is makers.fr. I could also mention that we have a really nice discount code for your podcast listeners. So the code is CA20, and with that you can take 20% off your first pattern purchase on any full price pattern.
Oh, nice. That's fabulous. Okay, so where should we go to use this awesome discount code?
Directly to www.makerist.com.
That's awesome, Holly. Thank you so much for telling us about Makerist. This sounds amazing.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Makerist. And now back to my conversation with Alexis.
There's only so much you can really put in an Instagram caption too. So if you want to, I really wanted to go in depth on some things just because that's just the type of person I am. I want to share all information as possible so that there are no questions. So I did make the blog for that reason too, just to share vital information. It's completely different than it used to be. It's a lot better. I don't remember the day that I decided that it was enough to start, because at that time it was I was using just the free version. But when I really realized that it was going somewhere, then that's when I invested in it and started putting more into it. And that was a really happy decision for me that made me realize oh, I'm taking this seriously. So yeah.
And your blog has a very nice design. It's very clean. It's a lot of white space. It's very it's very modern. It's not cluttered. It's easy on the eyes. So it's easy. It's easy for visitors to check out. So people can go take a look and see what I'm talking about. But I think it's easy for people to read. And I wonder, do you think that having that blog was helpful to you when you applied to be part of the IndieSew testing group?
I think so. I mean, mainly since IndieSew was just mostly about blogging. And I remember I had never really had that many followers. I mean, I had followers to the blog, but once I started IndieSew, then I saw so much more traffic than I had ever imagined go to the blog, a lot. And so I think it was useful, especially since I was sharing pattern information. One thing with IndieSew is that you had to talk about the pattern and you had to talk about the fabric at the same time. And so since I was pretty much used to talking about the pattern and as detailed as I was trying to be, then I think that definitely assisted in the IndieSew thing.
Yeah, because you had a place to put all of it. I don't know that you would have necessarily been chosen if you hadn't had a blog to put all of that.
So either.
Yeah, so really helpful. So IndieSew, for people who aren't familiar, was a marketplace where pattern designers could sell their that sold independent pattern designers patterns and also sold fabric. And it is no more, but it was really a lovely place. And one of the things that Allie Olson, who ran it, did was have teams of people who would sew the patterns and show off how they would look. And you applied. So talk a little bit about that experience of applying for it and being chosen for it and what that meant for your trajectory.
Yeah, so it was actually right after I rebranded and changed my name. And I don't know why I even applied. It was really random, actually. Actually, it was right before, honestly. Actually, I just thought about that. It was right before I rebranded, which is also, too, why I couldn't believe that I even got chosen, because my pictures weren't the greatest. But they had to choose 7 people out of, I believe, 200 is what she chose, 7 of us. And I did not believe that I would, but I just applied just to apply. I saw it was paid and I was like, well, that's the goal. I want to get paid for blogging. So, this is a good start. And I remember the day that I got the email and I was like, oh my gosh. And I only had maybe 700 I had maybe 1,000 followers at the time, maybe 1,500 or something like that
on Instagram.
I had 1,500 followers. And so I was like, I don't know why, but then I started looking and she chose a very diverse group of people. There was one person who had 3,000 followers. There was one person who had 700 followers at the time. And so I was like, oh, that didn't matter. She was just focused on our skills and what we can bring to the table as far as sewing and as far as giving the reviews and what we had. And so that really spoke out to me too. And I really appreciated that as well. And it was just a great team. We all got close as a team. I talked to all of them. We've all grown too, each one of us from indie sew in our own different ways. Some of us make patterns, some of us have complete businesses. I have my thing going on. And so it's just really cool to see how we all have come from indie sew, and it definitely spearheaded us all going forward.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Allie paid everybody too, like on that team, and I feel like that means so much to people. And it, you don't have to pay somebody a ton of money, but to be able to be part of something like that and be compensated for your work, and I know so many of these like really big brands who have ambassador programs and things like that, and I just would encourage them, if they're listening, to just pay the people who work with them, even if it's a modest sum, because it really does make a difference in their, dedication to doing the work. And just, you applied because you were like, I want to get paid to blog, and that's important. It's really important to people. So I just wanted to mention that. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that as well. I mean, lately I've been, as I've grown and as I've started my own business, and as I've, realized how little time I have to do things, then, it's cool to get paid in fabric. And I remember when I started, doing all of this, how I thought that was cool. Like, oh, free stuff. Like that was a really cool thing. But, as you grow and you realize your experience with things and your value, then it really is true. If business is understood, if you pay people, you're going to get better quality, versus if you give them product, then they're going to talk about the product, but it's not going to be as genuine and as valuable as if you probably have paid them. And I really appreciated that. All of my thoughts and posts and everything on Indie Sew were completely unbiased, and we got to choose any fabric that we wanted, in any way, in any pattern. And having that freedom and getting paid for it added to me wanting to even share my opinion genuinely with other people, and it just made the whole experience organic. And so I definitely agree that it's important to pay people in money and not always product.
100%. And even like back when you were referencing when you went through your rebrand and you got some mentorship, and I'm sure like when you did that, like you paid the mentor who worked with you to help you like learn about, how to take your business seriously and how to understand it better. And it was probably worth every penny, So.
Yeah, and it was, people know their worth. So if you know that you can charge for something, then people will pay if you put your worth out there. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just wanted to put some word out there for that. So we talked a little bit about Matt, who you've referenced a few times, who's your husband. And he encouraged you to get the sewing machine and a couple of other things, nice things that you've already said about him along the way. But he takes your photographs that appear on your blog and also on Instagram. And he is just such a good photographer. So you guys make a great pair together, because, I've often said that having an online presence or selling things online is a photo contest, and you've really got to have great photography, whether you hire somebody to do it or lucky enough to be married to somebody who can do it for you. So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about how you go about doing photo shoots together and some of what you've learned over time, because when you scroll way back in the real Alexis Bailey, you see your old photos, and they've certainly gone through a transformation.
Yeah, they have gone through a trend. I used to take my own, but they were just like around the house. And the first photo shoot we did was the coat that I made. I guess I'll have to put that back on the feed. Actually, it's on the blog too, but it was the first photo shoot we ever did was this coat that I made. And he did a really great job. Like, I didn't even know that he could take photos like that, but they were just perfect. I mean, you know how bloggers take photos and you get the details and the full frontal and the back and all of that. And he just did that naturally. And so after that, he kind of just became my photographer. And then he started taking it super seriously, which is what he does now. He's actually just recently got, it's an older model, but it's a new camera to him, and it's way better than the one he was using before. But he started, just really getting into it, and it really helped. And so now we went from being at photo shoots for like 2-3 hours trying to get it right because I'm a super perfectionist sometimes and I want to make sure everything is conveyed accurately and so there's no questions or things like that. And it's for the blog, so I want to make them look good. So our photo shoots used to be like super long. We used to take forever to find locations. We used to spend time getting the right angles and everything. But now they take like 30 minutes because we just plan everything out. We have a specific garment bag that we just throw everything into. It's small and compact, and we just put it all in the car and we drive and we take the photos and then we come back home. And it's really become a great process because it's easy, sometimes it's easy to use a tripod and a remote. Occasionally I will do that just because I know I need something in a specific way because he's more of an artistic kind of cameraman and he has his own way of taking photos. But having somebody else's eye see you is very helpful. So, I mean, if it wasn't him, I would find some friend to do it, but he's just the greatest partner with all of this. So, yeah.
Yeah. And your photos are really great. I would agree with you that having somebody else take those pictures of you is extremely helpful. So you've recently started a business, and it sounds like really from the very beginning, you had an intention of kind of figuring out a way to turn this into a business. I mean, you said you wanted to make money blogging, weren't sure like what the best way to do that was. And that was the indie sew thing. And, there's a lot of different ways to turn something like this into a business. You can run ads on your blog. You can do sponsorships, like sponsored posts with different brands. There's like a lot of, you can teach, you could design patterns and sell patterns. You kind of have to figure out like, where do I fit? What do I want to do? How do I want to turn this and turn my audience basically into something that pays me? Anyway, you figured something out that I think is working. It's called Thimble and Snip, and it's pretty unique. It's not the direction I would have guessed, but it's super interesting. Yeah, it's super interesting. So tell us a little bit about it, and then about how you kind of decided on this particular direction.
Yeah, so it's a hand sewing kit business, but it's hand sewing clothes. And so it really started like last year. I was really wanting to do something different, but there's so many saturated markets in the sewing industry that you have to be really different. And what I mean by that is like, you can be a pattern designer, but you want your patterns to be different so that they're interesting because, how many tank top patterns are there? However, like there's 5 different patterns and all of the tank tops are different. And so I didn't really know how to be that creative. I'm not really the best when it comes to making different types of looking clothing. So I didn't really want to go into pattern making and I wasn't really too knowledgeable of how to start blogging completely for money as a full-time gig. And so I just wanted to do something that was really different, but also helpful to the community in the best way possible. And that was resourceful and made a difference to people in the best way. I didn't really know how to do that. And then we took a trip to Europe last year, and I really wanted to bring my sewing machine with me, but it's super big and bulky and we're going across the country, so that wasn't going to happen. And we backpacked, so we didn't want to do any checked baggage, which if you bring knitting needles and stuff, sometimes you have to check the bag depending on the country. So that wasn't going to happen. So I pretty much went without any hobby over across the country, and I was like going through withdrawals. Like
I can totally understand that
in spare time.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a sewist thing. You're in Italy, but you really want your sewing machine. Like, how petty is that? But we came back, and I realized like, okay, so we came back, and I was like buying all this fabric when we came back, and one of the things that I bought while we were gone was I bought a wool in the gang kit, knitting kit. And I'd never done wool in the gang before. I had a craving for knitting while we were abroad. So when we came back, I got a Wool in the Gang kit, and I was like, oh, and so I pulled out the kit and I was like, this is so cool. Like they give you the yarn and the needles and the instructions, and you just pull it out and you just start knitting. And I was like, well, why can't we do this with sewing? And I was like, oh, well, you can do it with sewing, but you have to hand sew, which like automatically I was like, that's a super long, tedious process. So that's just not going to happen. And then I just kind of went my own way mentally and just didn't even think about it. But it still occasionally crossed my mind. So I wanted to see if anybody was doing it. And I came across Bernadette Banner, who is a historical seamstress. And she makes historical clothing and costuming and things like that. And she was hand sewing clothing, and like in the most, yes, tedious and precise and cool way, but she was doing it, and she wasn't making it difficult, like making it look difficult either. She was making it look super easy. And so I just started implementing some of the techniques that she was doing, and I forgot what the first thing I hand sewed was a pair of free range slacks. I don't know why I chose that. That's like the most, it's not hard, but if you don't know what you're doing and you just decide to hand sew free range slacks without having any instructions, it's kind of a process. But I just decided to play with them, and I hand sewed a pair of free range slacks, and you can, it's actually on my Instagram, but that was the first thing I ever hand sewed, and I was like, oh, this is a full-fledged pair of pants that I completely made by hand, so it's possible. And then I hand sewed a strata top by Sew Liberated, and after that I had like pants and a shirt, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this should be a business now. And so I started working to make it one. Of course, then the pandemic hit, so then I kind of, questioned what I was doing and the relevance of it. But that's pretty much the story of how it was born.
Yeah, it's so fascinating, and it's really old-fashioned, It really connects you to, a time gone by, but at the same time, it also feels very today in the way of, slow stitching and feeling really, it's the absolute opposite of fast fashion, right? It's like, yes. It's really connecting you to what it is to make a garment and to every stitch. And, which is, it's really fascinating that way. You would love that piece of clothing in a way that maybe you would never love anything else, if you've stitched it by hand. So
it's true too. Very, very, very true. And I don't think it wasn't until then that I think I've always been into sustainability since I started sewing, and I realized polyester was not for me, and I started getting into more natural fibers, just because I just love them, and I love, the impact it doesn't have as much on the environment, and just knowledgeable that I'm wearing something that, is clean with no chemicals, things like that. But once I started hand sewing more things, then I realized how tapped into making I really felt, versus being on a sewing machine has that automatic mentality of, oh, we have to finish this. But when you're like making a garment by hand, it's like, I'll finish this when I want to.
Right. It's on its own schedule. Yeah. So,
and it really was. It was just like, I'll get to it when I get to it. It's just here. Sometimes because I have an industrial machine, I still get into that like speedy, like I need to finish this now kind of thing. But, when I sit and do a hand sewing project, it's very similar to doing a knitting project. You just do it, and then you put it down, and then you pick it up when you feel like, and, when you want to put it down and come back to it 2 weeks later, then you can. And, eventually you'll finish it maybe next year, but, it's just supposed to be a slow process, really experience the feeling of making with your hands kind of thing. And the finished project is so loved. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but, I've seen that it like some of the stuff I've hand sewn, it looks hand sewn, but it doesn't. It looks like something that's been in your closet for years, and the quality has just upheld for a long, long time. And it's been just like a loved garment. And I love that feature about hand sewing as well, how your hands have just been all over it, and when you're finished, it just is such a loved thing.
That's beautiful. So, so the kits themselves, they contain a selection of notions that you've hand chosen that are particular to hand sewing, because hand sewing a garment requires certain notions, or is best with certain notions that you've sort of narrowed down for people, which is really helpful. So you can tell us a little bit about that. And then you've also kind of rewritten the instructions for the patterns themselves. So you've kind of selected patterns, but you've also, I guess, enhanced the instructions for the hand sewer as well.
Yes. So the kits come with pre-cut fabric and a drawstring bag with every notion you need. So I designed it for multiple types of people. I designed it for people who have never sewn before. So if you've never sewn before, then you can get the supplies, and it comes with everything. Even if you eventually want to use a sewing machine, the supplies and the hand sewing kits can also be used for machine sewing as well. But it's like a seam ripper, a thimble, pins and a wrist pin cushion, needles and thread and all of that. So even if you've never sewn before, you can get the box and start sewing immediately. If you have sewn before, but maybe your sewing machine doesn't work, then you can get this and have all of the supplies there. And if you just want to slow down and just hand sew something, then I designed this for those three types of people. So all of the supplies are included. You don't have to go buy anything. I've had a few people who actually have messaged me, and they're like, I didn't know this would have all of this stuff in it. Like, I thought I would have to go buy something. And I'm like, no, I gave you everything you need. I tried to make sure nobody has to go to the store for anything.
Which is perfect for the pandemic, actually. Yeah.
Yes. And some people anybody who is still traveling, if you want to travel with it, then if you take it on a plane, all you have to do is wrap it up and put it in, your bag or something, and you can just pull it out and you can start sewing wherever you are as well too. So I designed it so that it could be completely useful for everybody, and anybody can use it with all the supplies in it. And so it also comes with pre-cut fabric, just so you don't have to, deal with any cutting. And then the notches in certain areas are marked, so you know what to put together as well. So
that's amazing. And then the pattern has got this sort of supplemental instructions.
Yes. So I did redo all of the patterns. We have 4 patterns. So we have the Strata Top by Sew Liberated. We have the Free Range Slacks by Sew House 7. We have the Wilder Gown, but we only offer the top version because the dress version is just a lot. So I do have instructions on the dress version included, but I don't offer it as a pre-cut thing because, number one, it's just a lot of fabric and it's just a huge undertaking. So I only offer the blouse version in the kits, and I offer the Clematis Tote by Sarah Kirsten. And so I rearranged, and I got permission from all the pattern designers to pretty much redo all of their patterns to accommodate them for hand sewing. And yeah, it was actually kind of a fun process. It took a lot of wine drinking, but it was a fun process because I don't think people understand that, like, to make the instructions, I had to make all these things. I had to test all of these things at least 4 or 5 times. So I had to hand sew all of these things 4 or 5 times. So honestly, ironically, I'm kind of hand sewed out, and I've been on my machine a lot.
Yeah, you need a little break. Yeah. That's super cool. And how have they been doing? Has it taken, have people reacted well to them?
Yeah, so we launched September 22nd, and they sold out. That was a Tuesday. They were all sold out by that Friday. Actually, we still have some Clematis kits. My goal with the Clematis kits was for sustainability as well. I started using tote bags to go to the grocery store, and it's just changed my life. Like, I haven't used plastic for anything. There's so much stuff you can fit in the tote bags as well. And so my goal was for them to be used at the grocery store, but it's pandemic, so a lot of people unfortunately aren't really going to the grocery store, and a lot of people also are not allowed to use cloth bags at the grocery store as well, just for health reasons because of the pandemic. So that kind of backfired a little bit, but they've also actually seen a lot of play. I still have a couple in the shop, but the apparel kits sold out super quick, especially for some reason the free range slacks sold out super quick. People went for those first, and I don't understand, because they're the hardest thing to make, but but they went extra quick, and I'm glad. I mean, they're great, and we offer linen from the fabric-store.com, which is one of a really great linen supplier that I've been using, and their linens are high quality and really, really great. But those have been the most best-selling kits, have been the free-range slacks.
Nice. And so when you look ahead, before we get to your recommendations, when we look ahead into, the next couple of years for your business, what are you hoping for? What do you think is kind of around the corner?
Well, I was talking to a friend recently, and number one, I would love to get an employee to help me cut. That's been a thing. So I would love to get a helper to help me cut the patterns in a hopefully bigger space. I don't think I ever saw this being as successful as it was. I mean, I hoped it would be, but I didn't really know that it would be as successful as it has been lately. And so now I feel like I can scale it in different ways. The next restock, we're going to have some coaster and tea towel kits for some smaller makes. If you're not,
I think that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those go. I don't have a lot of the tea towel kits. I just want to see what the interest is first, but I'm looking forward to seeing how those go. The next restock is in November 17th. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I think, the sky's the limit with how many things you can hand sew. I'm just really experimenting with different techniques to find the best way to, make it professional looking and make sure everybody's interested. So there's so many ideas that I have in my head. It's just implementing them for the future. But yeah, that's right now where we are. I mean, I would hope to eventually to get off Etsy and make a bigger kind of scale thing, hopefully in the future. But, I just don't know. And I'm just kind of riding it as it goes, just to see how things go.
Yeah, I think Etsy was probably a smart place to start as far as e-commerce is concerned, just because, you were just getting started with this concept and maybe it wasn't going to work, or maybe you weren't going to love it, or, it was just sort of an experiment, really. And so probably a good place to begin, since it's only, 20 cents to list something on Etsy. And if it doesn't sell, it doesn't sell. You can always, you can set it up really fast. And it's really like, the marketplace is there. So you might get some organic traffic just from the marketplace too.
Yeah. And Melissa of A Happy Stitch is a close friend of mine. And she completely really sold Etsy to me when I was talking to her about where I should start. And she really said Etsy was because she sells her product through Etsy. And she said it's been one of the most successful things for her, and that she's loved it, and she's been on there for a while. And so when she gave me that, and honestly, it's been great. I mean, after the launch, I had no complaints. Everything went smoothly. It's easy to ship things from there and everything. You get discounts on shipping. It was just it's really user friendly and easy, and the best for, you don't have to do so much work.
Right.
So
exactly.
now, I'm going to be on it for a while.
Yeah. And I mean, I think down the road, it makes sense to set something up on Shopify and have your own, especially because, as we talked about earlier, you're so good at building your own audience on Instagram and your blog combined, and you probably are driving the traffic that you're getting to your Etsy shop is probably coming from your own traffic that you're driving there through.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting expecting that either. But like the day I created and announced that what Thimble and Snip was, like the page like had like 1,000 followers within like a week, which I had no idea. I had no idea the reception was going to be so interesting for everybody. But it's really been a blessing, and I have no complaints whatsoever.
Yeah.
I at this point, since I'm just a one-woman show, I'm just trying to keep up. So.
Right, exactly. So you can always keep the shop there and then have Shopify too, or just have Shopify down the road. But I think it's smart to start there. I guess test what I would call like product market fit, just to make sure that it works, and then kind of go from there. To me, that seems like a really smart move. So, well, congratulations on that launch, and it sounds like it really suits you. So that's fabulous. And I'll put links in the show notes so people can follow along and grab a kit and the next time they go up for sale if they want one, because I think they're super cool.
Thanks.
And I want to make sure we get to your recommendations because you have a few good ones. One is your sewing machine. You have a refurbished Brother machine. It's an SE625.
Yes. So I actually have been wanting this machine for a long time, and I planned on buying it for myself after the launch if it was successful. But then after pandemic, everybody started sewing. So the machine went from what used to be like $300 on Amazon to it is now listed as like $635 or something like that, which has been crazy. And I had looked for months. Like I was checking like every day. I was checking Facebook Marketplace for this machine. And people were, catching on. I found it a few times for $300, but it would be like 4 hours out of the way. So I couldn't get it, but I finally found it refurbished and I didn't care. I just wanted it. So I found it refurbished for, I think it was $350. And I was like, that's cool. It's fine, but it's actually an embroidery and a sewing machine put together. And I really wanted one that does both. And it's pretty heavy duty. It's got a metal inner frame and it's super heavy. It's not too heavy, but it's heavy for a machine. And it's just great. It's touchscreen. It's taught me a lot. It was an upgrade from my last domestic machine I don't even remember. It was a Brother, but it was like kind of just like an intermediate machine they have in like home economics at school, but it got the job done. But I wanted something better than that kind of handled more heavy duty what I was doing and wouldn't like die after 5 years. So I upgraded.
Yeah, totally. It's so interesting how sewing machines became this hot commodity over the last like 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mask making.
I know. Mask making. I know. It's like a sewing moment. So I know.
Yeah. And I couldn't figure out why at first. I was like, why is this machine twice as much as it was than like last month when the pandemic started? I was like, okay. And then I was like, oh, because like machines are like the thing right now. Like,
right.
They're probably black market. Like, it's like the new thing. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is going to be a challenge, which is something, we in the sewing community are like, oh, welcome everyone.
Right.
To the world of
right.
sewing.
Come join the fun. I know. It's great.
Yeah.
It's great for us. Yeah. No, I like welcome everybody for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know you're looking forward to the new Visible Mending book by Aruna from Boku, which I'm totally looking forward to as well. It should be coming out soon. And she's been on the podcast. She is just like so talented and fabulous.
She's so great. She is. She's actually a lot of inspiration that got me to doing this. She was one of the people that once I saw her, she does a lot of hand sewing and things like that too, because she does, of course, visible mending. But just her easy approach to everything was really inspirational to me. And so I love the sewing books, the sewing needle books she makes, and just she has like a super colorful account too, with her punch needling and everything. And I just love that she works with her hands a lot. So I'm really looking forward to her new book, and I think it's great. I'm really looking forward to seeing the needle book tutorial she has in it, because I'm going to be offering needle books this next time around.
Oh,
so
good.
I love inspiration like that, seeing different things. And she does these cool patch needle books that she has as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the projects that are in the book, because they just look so cool.
Yeah, I'm going to pre-order that book because
Yeah.
I just think it looks fabulous, and she's totally the right person. She's been doing so many cool like darning tutorials and just like really old-fashioned, talk about old-fashioned, like really old-fashioned forms of visible mending that you don't see all the time.
Printing.
Yeah, she had a really cool block. Yeah, I don't know. She's like a jack of all trades. She's just fabulous.
Yeah,
so I know. She's awesome. And her Instagram is so inspiring. So that's great. And then your last recommendation was sewing through your stash for your fall wardrobe, which is fabulous too.
Yeah. So I actually failed at that.
No. Did you buy more fabric?
Yeah.
It's hard to resist.
I over celebrated after the launch, and I just bought a lot of fabric, like a lot of fabric.
We forgive you.
And We Are the Fabric Store. They had a sale on stripes, and like everything was 50% off. I just failed, Abby.
It's okay. We totally forgive you.
Yeah. But I also do realize that, I have been, I do an intentional making board where I plan out all my makes on my Instagram. And so I went through the first set of outfits pretty quick. And I realized that wasn't the intention. The intention was to kind of go through it kind of slower. So I have a new set of projects and everything that I'm going to be making with my current stash, and I'm going to try to go through it a lot slower. And a lot of them are knits, and I'm not really a fan of sewing with knits. So I'm going to be like, this is more of a learning process, and I'm going to be doing a lot of slow sewing over the winter. It's like it just started freezing out here lately too. So I'm kind of just going to be taking it easy and doing more hand sewing and everything like that. Through the stash. So this stash hopefully will remain the stash, and nothing will be added over the next 6 months.
Goals, right? Totally. Total goals. I just bought some fabric. Actually, some arrived yesterday, so I'm not going to talk about it, but it's fine. It's all good. It's because I started a new project, and then I was like, I don't have quite the right thing, and I need more white, and I don't know. So anyway, yeah.
I go through the same thing. It's like, well, my closet could use more 17 colors, but yeah.
It's okay.
But yeah, that's what happened.
So, Alexis, thank you for taking the time to be on the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you.
Oh, you too, Abby. Thank you for having me.
And you've been listening to the Craft Industry Alliance podcast. I'm Abby Glassenberg. Today's episode was brought to you by Makerist. Find your next best crafting project on Makerist.com. Plus, support independent pattern designers from all over the world. You can read exclusive designer interviews and discover new patterns on their designer spotlight at makerist.com/designer-spotlight. Thank you so much, Makerist. Craft Industry Alliance is a community for craft professionals. When you become a member of Craft Industry Alliance, you get in-depth coverage of craft industry news, the opportunity to connect with fellow professionals for advice and support, and access to an educational library filled with ideas, tools, and resources to help you as you build your business. Join us at craftindustrｙalliance.org. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.